Hey guys, welcome back to the Ultimate Human Podcast. I'm your host, human biologist Gary Brecka, where we go down the road of everything anti-aging, longevity, biooptimization, and everything in between. Today is a really special day for me. I know I say that a lot on my podcast, but it's a really, really special day for me because I have a guest on that I'm proud to call a personal friend. He's become a very close friend of mine over the last few years, as has his wife and his family. And he is a Grammy award-winning artist. He's one of those artists that you go, I don't know if I've heard of that guy. And then as soon as you hear the song, you go, oh yeah, I know that song. And I've listened to that song. I've danced to that song. But he's a Grammy award-winning artist. He's worked with the greatest of the great, Lenny, Kravitz, Lana Del Rey. He's been in a number of movies with actors that you all know, like Mark Wahlberg. We just talked about 4 movies that he was in right before we started the cameras rolling. He is an icon in his industry, a music legend. Trust me when I tell you, you know his music if you don't know his name. We're going to get to know him today. So welcome to the podcast, Cedric Gervais. Great to have you on, my brother.
Thanks for having me, brother.
We've had an incredible personal journey ourselves over the last 2 years, which I want to get to, which is, we always talk about, the impact of optimal health on the podcast. And so I want to talk a little bit about, the blood work that we've done, the gene work that we've done, the supplementation, your routine and things like that. But I really want the listeners to get a chance to know you because, we were introduced by Dave Grutman.
Yes, about 2 years ago.
About 2 years ago. Yeah. And so shout out to Dave Grutman. But since that time, I've really actually gotten to know a lot about your career. You're French, which everybody will notice here in a few minutes. And you started your career at 19 in the music scene. So, walk me through the start of your music career and kind of building all of this momentum up to the point where you actually won a Grammy Award.
Yeah, so I'm from Marseille, south of France.
Okay.
So I started when I was 15 years old. I got into electronic music. That was my passion. And I started going to shows and seeing artists such as Daft Punk, Laurent Garnier, Carl Cox, all these guys that I was going to rave as a kid.
Raves, right.
Yeah, and I remember the moment I saw Daft Punk performing live. That's when I went home. And I was like, that's what I want to do. I was 15 years old. So I went out and I bought some, at the time, Techniques, turntables.
And they were really turntables
real
back
turntables,
then too.
A mixer. And I remember I set it up in the basement of my grandmother's house. And I started DJing, mixing for like 6 hours a day after school. I was like DJing. I would go out a record store, buying the record. Because at the time, we didn't have any internet. Right. No phones, cell phones, no internet.
So no audience.
No audience, nothing. So the only way to find, you had to call from the home main line, your friends, and let's meet at the record store and let's go find out what's the hottest music right now. So we'll go to the record store, spend days in there and listening, asking the guy that was selling records, what is the hottest thing? And they would give us the record and then go back home and start mixing those records. So that was 15 years old. And so I arrived in Miami, I was 19 years old. A friend of mine.
So hold on, you leave France.
So basically I started in Saint-Tropez at this club called the Papagayo. And my father would drive me every weekend. I had a residency. I was so happy. I was like, start playing there.
You're not even legal age yet.
No, it's not even a legal age.
Right.
So I start DJing at this club. I get the residency. I'm very excited. And one night I remember they brought this mega club from Paris called the Queen. Used to be a gay club in Paris, but it was the #1 music scene club in France. Everybody would look up to this club, right? All the DJs. And they did the Queen night. And I remember the guy that owned the club was there and heard me play. And it's like, this kid is very good. We got to bring him up to Paris. So I get the residency at the Queen in Paris. I get excited. I move to Paris. Like at this time, I'm 17 years old. When I get to Paris, I do my first show, very excited, just moved to Paris. And the government decided to shut down every club, every bars for drugs in Paris, in the whole city, for good.
No.
We don't know when they're going to reopen. I show up there. I just got an apartment. I'm excited. I did one show. Everything shuts down in Paris.
You're kidding me.
No. So a friend of mine at the time, Dimitri Francelet, that was living in Miami, goes, listen, just come to this place called Miami. I never traveled in my life. I don't know where the United States is. I don't speak a word of
You
English.
don't even know where it is on a map.
No.
You don't even speak English.
I don't even speak. I know how to say hello at the time. So he goes, come to Miami with me on vacation. And then when everything settled down in Paris, you go back to Paris, you start your residency again. I go to Miami. Clubs are still closed. I show up to the city. I remember he was living at the Grand in downtown. That was the only building at the time, the DoubleTree Hotel.
Okay.
And the Miami skyline, there was nothing, no Miami Heat arena, no buildings, like maybe three or four buildings at the time. It was very dangerous to be in downtown at the time. And I just remember I landed in the city and I was like, this feeling, I was like, this is home for me. I'm going to stay here. Yeah.
Really?
So I got here and he hooked me up with a party at the time with a friend of his called Daniel Hirsch, a Switzerland guy. He did a party at his house. And at the time, the club that was popping was called the Living Room with the Milan brothers.
I remember the Living Room. Yeah, the Eric Milan. And
so I got hired by this guy. I played this party, and that night, everybody stayed at the house. Nobody went to the living room. So the owner freaked out. It's like, what's going on? And the promoter's like, well, we were at Daniel's party. Everybody's there. And this DJ was so good, everybody stayed until the end. So the owner, Francis, goes, go get me this kid, wire him now. So I became the resident of the living room right away from Monday to Sunday. Wow. So then at that time, I was like, there's no need for me to go back to Paris. I think I'm going to be here. I'm going to stay in Miami. So they made my visa, everything. And at the age of 19, I started having a residency in Miami. That's how I started.
Wow, that is a ballsy move.
Yeah.
Because you don't speak English. You've never been to Miami.
No.
It wasn't, like you said, it wasn't particularly safe town at the time.
No, it was not safe at the time. No.
And then, you know, I think the scene has kind of shifted, you know, downtown, but you're on Miami Beach. That's where the music scene
Miami
really
Beach was the scene was in Miami Beach at the time when I got there.
So you start DJing at this club, you get this residency, and when do you start really producing music that people are going to know about? Because at that time you weren't really recording music.
So I mean,
of your own.
It was a process. It's basically I was DJing. At that time I was DJing. I was trying to, you know, establish a life in Miami, right? You're like making money, getting an apartment.
And this is other people's music you're playing.
Yeah, I'm playing other people's music. Yeah. I'm not even producing yet. I'm just like DJing, like the art of DJing, right? Making people dance. At the time, it's like, if you didn't make people dance, the owner will fire you from the club. It's like, there's no, people were not showing up to see me. People were not, I wasn't, you know what I mean? Like I was just a DJ making sure people are dancing, and if they did not, I would get fired.
Okay.
So what everything started for me is when I started moving to Crowbar, right? This
bigger club.
This mega club opened in Miami called Crowbar, and that's when they start bringing international DJs. Right? So I became the resident of that club. That's when I started getting interested in producing music. So I was saving my money, buying gears, computers, keyboards, everything, and learning how to produce, the art of producing.
Right.
So at that time, I bought everything. I started making my first song. I make a first song called Burning at the time. And the A&R of Ultra Record, David Waxman, shout out to David Waxman, came to play. He was one of the DJ coming to play at Crowbar. I remember I came in, I made this song Burning, I gave it to him as a CD at the time, and I went home, and my number was on it.
So you burned your own CD?
Burned my own CD. The song is on it. First song ever produced. I give him the CD. I go home. The next day, he calls me. He goes, hey, man, this song is amazing. I'm signing you to Ultra Record for an album deal. Yeah.
What?
Yeah, that was
for what? Your first song that you ever produced?
Yeah, ever produced. He signed me up. I got signed up with one of the biggest, David Waxman, Patrick Moxey, the owner of Ultra Record, and this is it. So now I have to produce an album.
And how old are you now? So you're 20, because you move here when you're 19.
It was like 20. Yeah, I was 22, maybe 23. Okay. I don't remember exactly. It was such a long time ago.
Yeah.
So I make this first single. First single comes out. This is when I first starting to produce music. Then I start getting into making albums and everything. But my career really took off when I made the move to space. Wow. I became the resident of Space on the Terrace.
Okay.
And that was for me, working with Louis Bouygues, you know, the owner of Space, was first of all, made me a better DJ because I had to play for long hours. I would play inside of space from midnight to 5, and then I had to go on the
my
terrace,
God.
to 6 to like close, maybe 3 or 4 in the afternoon, long sets like this.
Hold on,
right?
so midnight to 5 a.m., then you shift to another terrace, and then you're
Correct.
playing until 3 o'clock in the
So
afternoon.
it was like, and the same thing, Louis, if you're not on point, you get fired.
Right.
Right. And I'm still like, you know what I mean? No, but like people will show up to the club because of space. They're not showing up for the DJs, you
Right.
know. But then I got to be around amazing DJs, right? At the time, like everybody would play there, like Deep Dish, Sander Kleinenberg, Danny Teneglia, Eric Moello. Shout out to Eric Moello, you know, rest in peace. And I remember I played with Deep Dish, Sharam and Ali Dubfire. And Sharam was like, this kid is pretty good. I think we need to sign him on our label.
So, but you're on a label now because you...
Well, I'm on the label. They wanted to sign me with their agency called Bullet Booking at the time. So what they did is they signed me, and all of a sudden it's like, I'm this kid playing in Miami on a plane, opening for Deep Dish, which at the time was the biggest band in the world, right?
Wow.
The biggest band. So I'm opening for them worldwide. So I'm all of a sudden, I'm on private jets with them.
Right.
Flying the world, playing in Romania in front of 15,000 people, playing in Dublin at the Oxygen Festival.
Wow.
It's crazy. So, and they signed me on the agency. But one thing Shoram always told me is like, listen, we're opening you up to the world right now. But now it's up to you to put the work in, make music, because when you're going to go on your own, now you need to connect with people and have your own career.
Right.
Because it's easy to go with this massive artist.
Yeah,
and
somebody
open.
puts the people in the room and
Correct.
you just
There's
show
a lot
up.
of people in the
Right.
room. They don't know who you are. You're playing good music. Great. Now you got to connect to these people. You got to make music.
Right.
So he always told me. That's why I kept producing, kept making music. And all of a sudden, made my first record, Molly, which became,
Molly?
became a big sensation
Appropriately
worldwide.
named, yeah.
Yeah. And that was the first record that, you know, the whole controversy with Deadmau5, Madonna coming on stage, shouting out the record for me because I worked with her in New York on her album. So she promoted, there was this big controversy, the record became big. And after that, on the back of that, I did Summertime Sadness. That changed my life, basically.
Summertime Sadness. So whatever happened to Burning? The very original
So Burning,
one that...
So go back to Burning. My first record came out. A lot of underground DJ, such as Steve Lawler, were pushing the record. I was freaking out. The record was getting charted. A lot of people were playing it. Then on the back of that, I did 2 albums with them. One song that I did that really connected was called Spirit in My Life on one of the album. So it was like a progression of me learning how to make music and trying to like, you know, figure out how to make this.
Yeah.
So it did well, but not as a very commercial level.
Right.
It put my name out there. Like the cool DJs were playing my music. Some people were connecting some songs, but there was not a lot of very commercial success yet.
Yeah. So what brought you together with... because you won the Grammy for the Lana Del Rey record with Summertime Sadness, which is a great song, by the way. I actually played it right before the podcast to get in the mood. But what led you to Lana, and how did that working relationship come together? And is there ever a time when you're producing when you say, this is it? Like there's that
Actually,
it factor.
to be honest with you, you never know. No, you never know. So the way it came in is like basically I was doing all this music before on my own, no management, just an agency for touring because Deep Dish signed me to this agency. So I had no management. I was doing everything on my own. So at one point, I get a manager, Luke Allen, my manager, a Red Light Management. They sign me in. And we start working, and we start. So when we get Molly, I'm already with management. So they see Molly is going on. We're getting a buzz. So at the time, my manager was friend with the manager of Lana Del Rey. So they had this idea of, you know, doing this record, Summertime Sadness. So Luke came in. He's like, "Listen, I have this amazing vocal. You need to remix the song right now." And it was like, it's funny because I'm a huge fan of the song.
Yeah.
I was actually thinking about doing a bootleg of this song for myself to play my set.
Really?
Yeah. So I did the song, finished it. On the way to Orlando, EDC Orlando. And the first time I played it was at EDC Orlando. And I remember the reaction of the crowd was insane. Everybody was singing the song. And the next day on social media, it was going crazy.
Really?
That's when my management's like, we have a big one.
Yeah.
but not to the level that it went. We have a big one. People are going to connect. DJs are going to play it. So the song went from playing in a festival to get released on Beatport, which is a DJ website where you go get all your music for the DJs, being number one for multiple weeks on Beatport. Wow. So we're happy. Like now I'm happy. I'm like, wow, all my DJ friends are playing, DJs are playing it. That's amazing. I made it.
You're seeing it at number one. It's
Great.
It's probably
Amazing.
your first big real hit.
Yeah. So then a couple of radios start playing it. Local radios, DJ Mix Radio. I'm like, wow, it's playing on the radio. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Right? Like local radio, not top 40 radio yet. At the time, she was signed to Interscope Music, and they didn't want to really, we saw that there was a momentum in the song, and my manager would go to Interscope and you have to release the song like worldwide because this is the momentum we're having. No, we already released our album. We don't care about this song. So what I do is, at the time, John Amen was the A&R at Interscope Records. So what I do is I was playing in DC, or EDC Vegas, main stage at that time.
Okay.
So I flew him in from LA to EDC, and I played the song in front of him. And at the moment of the chorus, I shut the music off, and there was like 90,000 people singing the song.
So he could see that.
You can see that. So he saw it. He went back to LA. He called my manager, and he goes, next week, this song will be top 40 radio worldwide.
No.
Yeah. So following week, top 40 radio song in the United States.
Dude, I'm getting goosebumps right now, man.
It's going crazy. So now I have a top 40 radio, which, so people understand, is when you have a top 40 radio record is when you break into the masses, right?
Yeah.
Because you have like DJ Mix Radio, which is, BPM, Sirius XM, all these things. And then you have top 40 radio, which is the masses. Now you have with a Taylor Swift,
right?
Katy Perry, you know what I mean? And then they're playing your song.
Right.
Which you break into the masses. So that's massive. So then on the back of that, we sold 8.5 million single.
Wow. 8.5 million singles. Like,
yes, of the
and you're
record
still
worldwide.
on this kind of you're still really chugging along in your music career. I mean, you've accomplished a lot, but I mean, this is like a parabolic. This is the tipping point.
Yeah, it's crazy, and I remember it was so crazy because we were number one on iTunes, and I remember my boy Stevie Aoki. One time he comes to live and he goes, "Man, I can't get rid of you. I keep looking at the chart and you're number one on this thing.
Yeah,
I keep like, this is crazy." I'm like, so that was all nuts for me because I never expected that. Like when I made this song, seriously, when I made this song, I made it. And I was thinking about my DJ friends playing the song, and I was happy with it. I was like, "Oh, my friends are playing it. DJs are playing it. When I walk in the club, the DJs play it." That was it. I was not thinking about it's gonna be like a commercial hit. It's gonna be on the radio. I'm gonna win a Grammy. It's like I was not thinking like that.
Yeah,
at all. And then after, on the back of that, the nomination for the Grammy, and obviously winning the Grammy was crazy.
That must have been like. Talk about that moment for a minute, accepting a Grammy Award. Like you're sitting there. How many other songs were nominated?
It was Alesso with One Direction, Bob Marley, Bruno Mars, and I forgot something else.
Massive names.
Yeah, massive names.
Massive names. Yeah. And so, because I always wondered what it would be like. I always watch the Grammys, what it would be like sitting in that audience and, they read your names with the nominations. And then when they tear that envelope open, and they're like, Cedric Gervais, Summertime Sadness. And you're like, holy shit, my life is going to change.
I know. I remember when they called my name, I just walked to that stage. I had no idea what I was going to say. I was like, in my head, I was like, what am I going to tell those people?
What did you say? I got to go back and look that up. We need to find that and play it as B-roll on the podcast.
The speech is out there.
This is amazing. I never thought doing this remix I'm going to be standing here today. So all I wanted my DJ friend to play the record, and I was cool with that. Thank you very much. I'm just a kid from Marseille with a dream. I'm not even supposed to be here, so thank you.
I'm just like, I had no idea what to say, and I just walk in there. But the thing is with the Grammys is you don't know until the last second you're there. Some of those award shows, you already know you're going to win.
Yeah.
Your PR telling you and this and that. So, you know what I mean? The Grammys, you don't know. You have no idea. To the last second, you have no idea that they opened this envelope. You have no idea.
And so you're up there, dude. You take that stage. I mean, that moment has got to be. I remember my first public speaking moment. It was only few hundred people in the crowd, and I almost, I froze, and I almost felt like I was gonna piss myself,
Yeah, I know.
And your voice starts cracking, but you get up there, they hand you this award, and what do you remember what you said? Do you remember that
Yeah,
moment?
I thank everybody that was part of the project. You know what I mean? I work with other people. I work with my boy Carlos Sid on the record, which it's an artist that I started with, and now is doing very well. I'm very proud of him. I thank my manager, my agent, everybody. And then at the end, I remember there was this speech from LeBron James that stuck to my head. Right when we won the championship in Miami, he just said, "I'm just a boy. I'm just a kid. I'm just a kid from Akron. I'm not even supposed to be here." Right.
Yeah.
And I remember sitting on the floor looking at him saying that, and it stood in my mind. So I said, "I'm just a kid from Marseille with a dream. I'm not even supposed to be here."
Yeah.
That's what I said, because I remember LeBron James.
Dude,
so,
I get goosebumps, man, just
so
hearing that.
that was surreal. That was a crazy moment.
I'm so enthralled by the human experience, meaning, like you said something to me before the podcast. You said anyone can have a moment, but not everyone can have a career.
Correct.
And I think that, you hit this pinnacle, this parabolic rise. You accept the Grammy, and you accept the Grammy award, and now, how do you keep your career from just going downhill after that? It's like I'm always fascinated by the athletes that don't just win one championship, by the UFC fighter that holds a belt for several years, by a Tom Brady that dominates the league and goes to the Super Bowl so many times, even though he's already won that prize. So tell me about how you find inspiration in your career after winning a Grammy.
Actually, what I did is I got lost for a year, because you're trying to replicate the same thing, and you try now, when I was telling you that I was doing this without thinking about it, and I did it with the passion and the love, right?
Right.
Now you're doing it, thinking about it, and you want to replicate exactly the same thing, and that's when you get lost. That's what you do. You make music that you don't want to make.
Right, because you're trying to.
Because now you sign to big labels, now you have big record deals, and now you have to please them and try to do exactly what Summertime Sadness did.
Right.
And that's what I got lost.
And the pressure's on.
And the pressure is on. So that's why I couldn't do anything. I was making records that I didn't like, to trying to please them, and nothing was working. And then it takes you a year or two. It took me 2 years, and then you go
get
back
inside your head a little bit.
Yeah, it's inside your head. And then you go back and you say, you know what? My manager told me, go back to making music for your friends and record that you want to play in your sets. And that's what I did. And that's when I did a record called Do It Tonight. I redid this SOS band,
I know
Do
the
It
song.
Tonight. And the song did amazing, blew up. It was the song of Monday Night Football, Touchdown. It was on Charlie's Angel movie. We got picked up with so many things, and everyone in the world were playing the song and charted. So this is what I'm saying. I did this song again for myself, to play it for my friends. So I got lost for like 2 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I think that happens a lot. I saw an interview with Dana White the other day, and he's a close friend of mine as well. And he talked about what happens to a lot of these, fighters at the top of their game. And they spent their entire lives in the grind. The fight business is a tough business. I mean, the music business is a tough business. And they get to the top of their game, they get that big paycheck. Now there's a fork in the road, right? Because now you've got access.
Now you're comfortable.
You're comfortable.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I want to drill into a little bit, because while people listening to this podcast might not be an aspiring DJ, they are aspiring to something in their business, in their life, in their career, in their families. And maybe they've reached that place of comfort, and how you made yourself uncomfortable again, so you could go back to actually your music roots and
you have to make yourself uncomfortable if you want to be back. You can be comfortable. And I'm never comfortable. And I think one of my biggest inspiration is to see my best friend David Guetta, the tribe that he has, and how many hits this man has.
Oh my God, he's a monster.
And he still works like he has nothing.
Yeah, he's a sweetheart of a human being too.
He's the best human being.
Yeah.
But I never seen somebody work like. Sometimes I look at him and I feel bad about myself, because I think I don't work hard enough. Because I'm like, this guy could retire right now with so many hits.
Yeah.
And he's still working like he's a little kid. But this is what I'm talking about. He's
Yeah.
always putting himself in a situation that like he doesn't think about what he has and he keeps going.
Yeah, it's amazing. You know, so many athletes, celebrities, you know, A-listers, entrepreneurs, they dominate their game for a short period of time and then they lose it. I think it's really interesting to hear that you actually had a 2-year kind of hiatus where you were wandering around and you finally just said, you know what, I'm going to go back to my roots. I'm going to make music for my friends. And then bang, it happens to you again.
Yeah.
So I think for the people that know you, they know about your music career. I certainly know about your music career, and I love your songs, love your music. I've danced to them for years. Not very well. I'm a terrible dancer. But talk about the transition into movies. You've done 4 movies. You've been on 4 movies with Mark Wahlberg. So obviously a really interesting actor. How did that transition occur?
Well, to be honest with you, my friend David Grutman helped me a lot in my career and introduced me to right people.
By the way,
yes,
he's been a massive force in my career too.
Yes,
So
he's amazing. He's the best.
Dave Grutman.
Shout out to Dave Grutman. He's the best in the business with that, and he's a friend, and he's looking out for me every time.
He's on your side. He's on your side.
He's always introducing me to the right people. He introduced me to Michael Bay, introduced me to Peter Berg, and became friend with
What do
them.
you say? This guy's a DJ, but he'd be a good actor?
Yeah.
Like, what do you say?
No, I started. What I did is I started making music. So in Pain and Gain, I got 2 songs in the movie, and then Michael threw me in the movie. You know, doing something that was a small part, and then. One time, Peter Berg was doing this movie, Deepwater Horizon, and me and Grutman went up and got in the movie with Mark, and we had each one of us had a scene in the movie. It was amazing experience working with Kurt Russell, Mark Wahlberg, and Kate Hudson too, which is a good friend now. And so we did that, and then after that, I mean, obviously Dave doesn't care about these things, and just, you know. So after that, Peter did another movie, Mile 22. Went to Colombia for a week with him. I became very close to Peter Berg. I love him. He's a genius. Love what he does. And he actually did this movie on Painkillers, which is on Netflix right now.
Oh, that's the one on...
That's Peter Berg.
Oh, really? It's the one about the opioid crisis.
Correct.
Yeah.
Which is incredible. If nobody seen it yet, you have to watch it. It's incredible. So I went there, shot that, Mark Wahlberg again, and then we did Patriot Day, the marathon
Patriot
bombing.
Day.
Yeah, we did that. So
cool.
it's a thing that I'm doing because I'm friend with them. It's fun to act, but it's not really my career. It's just like, you know, I do those things on the side.
But it's amazing. You know, my father, he's a salty old Navy captain, and he used to say it was the best definition of life I'd ever heard. And he said, you know, life is what happens to you when you're on your way to doing something else.
Yeah.
Right? So your biggest song happened when you were kind of on your way to doing something else.
Yeah.
You know, there you are, you're making music for your friends, and then you're like, holy shit.
Yeah.
I got a top 40 song. I got a Grammy in my hand. I mean, this is crazy. I'm acting next to, you know, Mark Wahlberg. And I think, you know, a lot of times we put a level of expectation on ourselves, just like you said, and we create this expectation. We set ourselves up for failure because we don't let our passion drive us. And we set this unrealistic expectation, and then by not achieving it, we start to have less and less confidence in ourselves. So I think it's a great point to say, get back to what you love to do, relax, and
enjoy,
and let life be something that happens to you when you're on your way to doing something else.
Exactly.
You know, I want to talk about our journey for a minute because, you know, being a DJ, a world-renowned DJ, and traveling in the nightclub business isn't particularly known for the place of optimal health.
Yeah.
Right? Drugs, alcohol, late nights, you know, especially for a DJ, the travel, the time zone changes, just the hours that you've got to be on set. And the fact that you have to be present enough to put the right energy into the crowd. I mean, you need to show up. You don't have a choice. So we started our journey about 2 years ago. I remember when we first met, you were saying, look, my goal is I want to be as optimal as possible.
Exactly.
I want to be a superhuman. And I mean, you don't drink, you don't do drugs. So you mean, you don't have the bad habits anyway, but you were like, I really want to dial the diet in, the hydration, the supplementation. We pulled 74 biomarkers in your blood. We pulled another 5 genetic markers, and you started on the protocol for supplementation, what have you. So talk a little bit about how that's impacted your life, and like, what are some of the rules that you have for travel, for staying in a hotel, for trying to keep up with your sleep, your diet, what have you?
Well, when I started, I was not worried about any of that. So I was going, when you're young, you don't really worry about anything.
Yeah.
So I was traveling. I was not sleeping very well. I was sleeping 2 hours a day. I was eating very bad, and I was getting sick a lot, right? So when I seen that, my career was, doing better, I started thinking I have to change something if I want to, keep going in this. So the first thing that I changed, that we changed when we start working, I start making changes by my schedule, the way I fly, right? I wanted to make sure to get my sleep.
Because you fly a lot.
I fly a lot. So I wanted to make sure that I could sleep at least 8 hours every time, so no early flights, no 2 hours of sleep anymore. So I changed that.
So
diet,
you started scheduling
my travel around my sleep, to have
Right.
better sleep, right? So that's very important. For me, sleep is the most important thing. And I think you talk about this,
Yeah,
how
no
important
question.
sleep is. To work out, to make sure that when I get to the city, I get my workout in. Because I became very big in working out every day, which I was not working out at the time.
So you're planning like the hotel that you might stay in.
I have to make sure the gym
they
is
have a
there.
gym?
Correct. As the gym, get my workout in, that I continue from the week that I started on Monday. I keep my workout in everywhere that I go. Before, I was not working out at all. I was not sleeping, and I was eating bad. I changed my diet. I started intermittent fasting.
Right.
Which,
I remember when we started
yes. So we started intermittent fasting, which very changed my life. At the beginning, it was very hard. And then I could not live without it. If you tell me right now, have breakfast at 9 a.m, there's no way I can do this.
Right.
It will ruin my day.
Yeah. And I remember you weren't like that. And I know everybody is not a candidate for intermittent fasting. We looked at your blood work, and you had, there's a marker in the blood work called hemoglobin A1C. It's a 3-month average of the blood sugar. This was elevated. The insulin was elevated. And we talked about it. And I remember you said, "What are some ways that I can get this down?" And I said, "Well, you could do intermittent fasting." And we started talking about a fasting program. And I remember it was difficult for you in the beginning. Hey guys, if you've been watching the Ultimate Human podcast for any length of time, you know that one thing I do not do is push products. I do not just let any advertiser into this space, because I believe that the products that appear on the Ultimate Human podcast should be things that I use every day in my life to improve my own physiology. One of them is something called the Echo Go Plus. The Echo Go Plus is a hydrogen water generator that you can take on the go. You essentially take the top off of this bottle, you pour bottled water in this, and repeatedly it will make high part per million hydrogen water. You press this little button, you'll see these bubbles going up in the water. That's hydrogen being created in the water. There are all kinds of peer-reviewed, published clinical studies on the benefits of hydrogen water, including reduced inflammation, better absorption of your supplements, better absorption of your foods, better balance of the stomach acid, and it feeds an entire class of bacteria in your gut. Hydrogen water, in my opinion, is the most beneficial water that you can drink, and now you can take it wherever you go. And now, back to the Ultimate Human podcast. So now talk about, what's your eating schedule like now?
So my eating schedule is, my first meal is at 3 in the afternoon. Last meal, sometime even more, 4 or 5 in the afternoon. Last meal, 8 p.m. That's 8 p.m., 9 p.m. sometime. Depends where I'm at. The food that I eat when I'm in town, in my house, everything is organic, non-GMO organic, like you told me to do.
Yeah.
Fruit, very important, like you talk about.
Yep.
That is very important.
Fruits and berries.
Because of the pesticides that's on it. And I remember you told me that when you wash the fruit, you can actually reuse the water and pesticide again all the fruits with it.
Yes.
This is how bad it is.
Yeah, in non-organic
food. Yeah,
so
correct.
you go organic on your fruits. You're eating in a window from 3 to 8 p.m., so about a 5-hour window.
Yeah.
And for people that have never intermittent fasting, talk about the struggle. How much of a struggle is that now? It's just what you do.
This is just what I do. It's part of my life. It's very easy.
Yeah,
Very
it's easy
easy.
now.
It's very easy. It's The only thing that's difficult for me is when I travel to control what I eat, right? So I try to, for example, when I get to a city, I make sure my tour manager goes to Whole Food and gets me the organic foods, my water. I only drink Mountain Valley water, which is, in glass bottles, one of the best water to drink.
Very true.
I also changed that. I carry my, non-GMO sea salt, with me, so I can use that.
The guy is carrying his own sea salt,
Yes.
ladies and gentlemen.
So this is what I do. I carry my
This
sea
is
salt.
some next level shit here.
I'm very big on not using any seed oil, sunflower oils, and everything. And as you know, a lot of restaurants are cooking with that.
Right.
So one thing that I learned, if I eat at a restaurant, I'm going to ask the chef to cook with butter.
Right.
If I do a steak, I'm going to mention that I want the steak to be cooked in butter, which
Right.
is much better for you than seed oils.
Right.
So there's a lot of tricks like this that I can do. So I would love to be home all the time and follow my diet, but I cannot. So that's what I try to do on the road and stay healthy.
And what kind of impact has that had on the wear and tear that travel takes on you?
It changed my life. I mean, one thing that I can say is I don't get sick anymore.
Yeah.
I do not get sick since I've been on the program with you, and I changed my diet and the supplement that I'm taking. I'm never getting sick.
No, you look amazing. And when you look at blood work, there's something in there called the CBC, the complete blood count, and you can look at how strong some parts of the immune system are, what your blood counts are of certain white blood cells that help you mount an immune defense. And that has improved dramatically in your case. But it's nice to take lab values like sugars going from high to low, or insulin going from high to low, or the amount of blood fat, triglyceride going from high to low, and relate that to how it's impacting your life. And so when you're on planes, so you're fasting on airplanes.
I'm fasting on airplanes. That's why I try to travel in the morning. So I get to the city and then I can do my things.
Yeah.
I'm fasting. It's very easy on the plane. I drink a lot of water, coffee.
Yeah, it's funny. I had dinner at your restaurant, Matamushi in Aspen the other night with my wife Sage and your wife. You were out of town. She goes, "Oh man, Cedric's a pain in the ass when he orders. I want my steak cooked in butter. I want She told me the exact same thing.
That's what I do. She hates sitting with me.
Yeah, but it makes such a difference. And do they ever have a problem accommodating you?
No, never, never. You can always ask a restaurant; they will do it for you.
Yeah, and these are some of the little shifts that people can make to totally change the trajectory of their life. And I like talking about little shifts that you can make that make a major difference in your life, because there's people listening to this that don't travel at all. So they work a 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. There's certainly nothing wrong with that. And they're not consistent at home about what they're eating. And yet with your travel schedule, which is different time zones, different cities, different countries, different food, you set up like some rules and you stick to those rules, and it's helped you in your career, and it's helped you, with your sleep and your immune system. I'm
more focused. I'm getting better sleep, better energy at everything, and I see it. It changed. 2 years ago, I was not like that.
So now we know this is the next big shift you've made in your life. And I want to get back to that conversation about what makes somebody transition from having a moment to having a career. How are you staying interested in music right now? How are you staying interested and passionate about your career? What do you key into after having such a long career in music, winning a Grammy and acting? Like, what's next for Cedric Gervais?
In my head, I still haven't made it.
Really?
That's why
You're still hungry.
I'm still hungry. I haven't made it. I don't think I accomplished anything yet. That's why I keep going. And if I would put my manager here, he would tell you that I'm a crazy man, because every time I call them like I haven't done anything. And
really?
I harass him like, we need to do something. We need to do this. We need to do that. We need, and he's like, you need to chill out. You need to and this is my mindset.
Right.
Right. I'm not comfortable. I'm not.
Where are you getting your creative inspiration from now? Like earlier in your career, you got it from wanting to just make music for your friends.
Yeah.
So where are you
listening
getting
to other
creative?
people, listening to going out, listening to DJs, listening to the music out there, and performing in front of crowds every weekend. That's very inspiring.
You get energy from that.
The beauty of being a DJ is, which I think a lot of producers don't have, right? Is that we can make music and try it in front of a crowd on the weekend.
Oh, in real time.
In real time.
Yeah.
And then
versus
go
just
back to
in
the studio.
in the
Go back to
studio.
the studio and change the thing that you want to change. And go back to the following weekend and try the record again. And perfect the record all the time.
I never thought about that.
See what I mean?
So there's a certain connection you have with that crowd, like a
Right.
certain energy, and you're
right.
like, they're
So
catching this vibe.
you see if a record works and
Yeah.
it doesn't work. As some producer, like massive producers, are going to make a record in the studio, and then they're going to be like, okay, let's release that and see what happens.
yeah, see how it goes.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Which
so
is
you can fail
can
in small
see.
increments. Yeah, I
yes,
love
you
that.
can see some
Yeah.
record works, some record don't. Some you have to tweak. Some, you know what I mean. And that's the beauty of DJing
Yeah.
and be on the road.
What do you think makes the difference between a good DJ and a great DJ? I'll tell you what somebody told me one time, and and it made a lot of sense. Roman Zago, who was a
Yeah.
partner of mine in a nightclub years ago called Mint Lounge. I remember he when he was trying to get DJs and talent, he would say the difference between a good DJ and a great DJ is the transition. And I was like, what do you mean the transition? He was like, the transition between songs, because the crowd should never feel an abrupt stop and an abrupt start again, right? Maybe like if you break things up too much, then you sort of break the momentum and the energy of the crowd, right? But what do you think makes the difference between a good DJ?
Well, I think
DJ.
being an amazing DJ is like there's two different. I mean, there's so many different DJs, right? You have for me, it's like when you're a DJ, you have to tell a story, right? You have to like take people on a journey, like have, I come from a different era of DJ, which I have to start from the beginning of the night, warm up the room, get people walking in, have them dancing, take them somewhere to the end of the night, right?
Right.
For like 5 hours, 6 hours,
It's a long
right? It's a
process.
long journey.
Yeah.
Now you have this kid coming, they get success, they get put on, and they play for 1 hour. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's very, I think there's an art in DJing. It could be hip hop, it could be open format, it could be any kind of music. There's always like telling a story and keeping like people dancing and having a great time.
Are
right?
you ever adjusting in real time? Like,
You
are
have
you
to
reading
adjust
the crowd
anyway
and you're
you
like, they're not feeling this, I'm going to...
You have to
I had
adjust.
this plan, but I'm going to shift.
You can tell when you walk to a place. I can tell when I walk to a place, I'm like, I'm going to have to change my style. I'm going to have to play different.
Really?
I'm going to have to go in a different way. I'm like, but this is when you have like this in you, right?
Right.
It's this is not, but then you have DJs that have pre-recorded set that goes everywhere and play the same thing. But
Right.
those are producers that became DJs.
Right. Right.
It's a big difference. Like they had a big record and then they put on the road being a DJ and they have no idea what they're doing. They're learning as they go.
Right.
So it's
Where you really are in live format. You're and you're in that booth sometimes and you go, I was going this direction, but based on what I'm feeling from the crowd, I'm
going to go in a
shift
different
up.
direction.
Yeah.
I never know what record I'm going to play. I'm
Really?
going to play the same record many times, but in not the same order. You never know when I show up what I'm going to play.
Yeah.
Even here I live, when I play live, my residency, I never play the same song in the same order. You're going to hear same songs, right?
Right.
But never in the same order because you have to create a vibe. And some people, sometimes you don't know, they start drinking, you don't know at what level they are, like you look at them, you don't, and sometimes you show up, the energy is insane and it starts right away. It's always different.
So you just start pounding on the
Yeah,
crowd
you have
right
to
away.
feed yourself with the energy of the crowd. And then this is something that you have to learn how to do.
I imagine you can't really stand on a crowd too hard for too long. Like you got to kind of give them a little bit of a break.
I mean, it depends the amount of hours you're playing, right? It could be, I remember this DJ, Danny Teneglia, which was a legend from New York. He used to do like 10-hour sets, 12-hour sets at Space. Yeah.
God.
And he would take you on journeys. Like it would be like fast beat and downbeat, this and that. And people would dance for like 12 hours. But then you would give them rest and then go back up. It was just a crazy experience. Now all the, everything is like very short, very like they want it now. Now everybody's there with their phone watching,
Right.
It's a different era.
Yeah. I mean, and that's That's got to be an interesting part of your career too, because when you started, the cell phones were not in the nightclubs. I mean, and they heard that music, they went home. But now, I mean, I've been in the DJ booth with you. I mean, it's like thousands of phones just pointed at you. So all that's out all over social media everywhere, which
You
is
play
good.
a song, they Shazam it, they know what it is right away.
Yeah, they Shazam it right away, and then they're recording you. So again, so now that you're at this point in your career, you're focused on your health, which I'm a huge fan of yours, and I'm a huge fan of the discipline that you've shown, because you have been very, very disciplined. You know, sometimes when I'm working with different people, you try things, they go off the wagon, you know, they go back on the wagon. You basically got on the wagon and never got off.
Yeah.
If anything, you've improved the wagon. You know, you've got travel hacks that you use, you've got sleep hacks that you use. You look great. You're in fantastic shape. It's obviously affecting your career. So where do you see Cedric Gervais? I love the fact that you said, I don't feel like I've done anything. Because I think that mindset, that hungry young mindset that you're sort of tapping into back when you were in a small club in France at 19, is a different mindset than the one that you tap into after you've won a Grammy and you're like, hey, I'm already here.
Yeah.
So I love that, because people can actually reorient the way that they approach their career, and they can try to find that hunger again for their business, for their music, for their career, for their marriage or what have you. So what's next? Where's Cedric Gervais over the next 5 years? Where does he go?
I'm making a lot of music right now at the moment, and also doing different business.
I mean, are there artists that you have I would love to work with?
Oh,
this artist. So like, if you could work with one artist, like who would it be?
I think would be The Weeknd.
The Weeknd.
Yeah. I love The Weeknd. Bruno Mars is one of my favorite artists. There's many artists I would love to work with.
He's one of those too. I mean, obviously I know some of his songs, but I was in Vegas with this Swedish house guys, and they're like, hey, we're going over to, or with Alesso, and he's like, hey, I'm going over to the Weeknd's concert. And I was like, I'll go over there with you. And then I sat there and I was like, he does that song? He does that song?
Oh, yeah, man.
He does that song?
He's massive.
He does that song?
Yeah, no, The
I
Weeknd.
couldn't believe it. It was like 9 of 10 songs.
The Weeknd is massive.
Yeah. So you'd love to do an album with him?
Not an
Or
album,
a
just
record.
a song.
record.
I would love to do a song. The Weeknd, I don't know if you know, but The Weeknd started his career as giving his music for free. He was signed to nobody, and you would sign up to a website, which I was signed up to the website, and when he would drop an album, you'll get it for free.
Wow.
Back in the days, yeah. And I would get his album for free.
And he was producing that music.
He was producing everything, singing everything, and giving it away to his fans for free. He was signed to no label, didn't want to be signed to anybody, and that's how he blew up and created his crown.
Wow. And so would DJs like you take that music and
Yeah, I mean,
use some of his
at the
vocals
time,
and things like that?
I was just listening to his
Yeah.
music. I was a fan, but then he became massive after that.
Who are some of the in your career so far? Who's some of the favorite artists that you've worked with? I mean, working with Lenny Kravitz must have been pretty cool.
Yeah, that was very cool.
I mean, that's a living legend.
That was very
right
cool.
there.
Lenny, by the way, is a very when it comes to health, he's very.
Oh yeah.
He's a friend now, and he's very strict with his health. He's the
Right.
same. He's an amazing
Yeah,
guy.
he and I have been down the rabbit hole on that before.
Yeah, no,
too.
he's unbelievable. Him, Lana Del Rey. I worked with Miley Cyrus. Working with Madonna was pretty crazy.
And when you collaborate with these artists, is it kind of their way or the highway, or are they really coming in and kind of collaborating with you? What's it like to work?
It's
with
always
some of those
different.
iconic legends.
It's always different.
Okay.
It's not. Lenny was very cool. I did Stillness of Heart from his album. Worked with him.
So you took a song of his and
And then
remixed it.
and did in my version. Then I went to his house, played it for him, and he was listening, and I was like, I didn't know what he was thinking. He was listening to it, and at the end he goes, "You blew my mind, man. This is incredible." And
No.
I was a little kid. I was looking at Lenny Kravitz like this. I was like, "Oh my God, did you just say that?" Yeah. So some artists, they just let you do it. Like I worked with Juanes, which is an incredible legend from Colombia. We did a song together, and he came in. We worked together, and he was like, he didn't understand because he's a rock artist, right? He's like, well, how are we going to do this? So I just told him, I said, listen, just write one of the songs that you will write, like a ballad, and then just give me the vocals when you're done. And then I'd done the song, brought it back to him, and he was like, oh my God, this is incredible. You know what I mean? Because
that's the cool thing about your style of music too, because you can take rock, house, hip hop, you know, pop, even like a funky blues tune, and you can kind of put your spin to it and really put it on a different stage.
Yeah.
You know, so Lenny Kravitz, you know, some of these other artists. Who did you say was an artist that you?
Miley Cyrus as well.
Miley Cyrus.
Yeah, it was cool to work with her.
Yeah. What did you guys do together?
So we did the song "Adore You." She wanted me to work on that song, and at the time, I think I was saying no to remix that song. And I remember one time.
Why is that?
It was at the time that she started. She was a little crazy and doing all these things, and I was busy doing other things. And I remember I get a phone call. And I'm like, "Yo, what's up? Why don't you want to work on my song?" I'm like, "Who's this?" She goes, "It's Miley." I'm like, "What?"
No way. She called you.
Yeah,
It kind of sounds like something.
And then she came down to Miami with her mom. I went to hang out with her. I live, and then I did the song. I remixed the song "Adore You," which is an incredible song, and she's super cool. But the fact that she called and asked, and I think
I love that.
When she was such a huge artist, I thought it was super cool because why would she call me? You know what I mean?
Right.
And I did it. She was such a great, and the song did amazing. So
yeah, well, fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I mean, the health journey, the music journey, you're clearly almost in your mind at the beginning.
Yeah, I am.
Again, and I think that's a great point for people to leave with. Is there anything else that you want people to know about Cedric Gervais and your career? And what's one piece of advice you would give to a young DJ like yourself, starting out 19 years old, and wants to break into this career?
I think the advice that I would give somebody that start now at 19 years old is to really work on your craft, right? Don't look at the because right now what everybody sees is this guy up there on stage putting his hand up in front of thousands of crowd, and the kids are like, this is where I want to be, that's what I want to do. But I think they have to see the work that goes into that to get there. Right? Because it was not handed to me, right? I had to work for it. And some gets handed, to them, and then they're here for like a quick minute and then they're gone. So really put the work and see how much work you have to put into this and what comes into it. And it comes to, like when we're talking about athletes, right? There's few athletes that are there and the best in the world. But why are they the best in the world, right? Cristiano Ronaldo, Messi, LeBron James, Tom Brady. Why? Is the dedication to the work, right? The hours they put in, day in, day out, right?
When they're not on the stage, yeah.
And this is why they're on top, and this is why they're the best in the world, right? Kobe Bryant, like all these people. And I think that's what a kid should look at. And what comes in, and I mean, look at David Guetta. David Guetta comes from the same background that I come from,
right? From
nothing, DJing, learning, producing,
Was there ever a time that you really just wanted to throw in the towel and quit? Were there those low moments along the road where you're like,
many moments, many moments, because everybody, you have to understand this, everybody loves you, and you're as good as your last record.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
So when your last record is getting old, people are like, oh, whatever.
Yeah.
And you start feeling like, so you feel all this love, and all of a sudden you don't feel this love anymore. And you start like questioning yourself, and you're like, oh my God, what's going on here? Where am I going? Am I done?
Producing.
Yeah.
Yeah, there used to be this show, I used to love to watch it, called One Hit Wonders.
Yeah.
And you would always know the song, and these people would spike and hit, they would have this one hit wonder, and then you'd never,
and then disappear.
You never hear about them again. And that's some of what I hope we tapped into today.
Yeah.
Cedric, this has been amazing, man. I'm really appreciative that you took the time to come on the show today. I end all my podcasts the same way, by asking every guest what it means to them to be an ultimate human. What does it mean to you to be an ultimate human?
To me, it means that I'm 44 now, and I feel like I'm 20 years old.
Awesome.
That's what it means to me.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to end with that. And as always, guys, thank you, Cedric, for joining us today on the Ultimate Human Podcast. You're an absolute
Thank
beast.
you, my brother.
You're a good friend. And as always, that's just science.